Have you ever wondered, like, how a thought, just a simple idea someone has, how does that actually become law? It's a pretty wild process when you think about it. This whole journey a bill takes in the United States,
Yeah.
all the way from someone saying, you know what, this should be a law, to the president's signature making it official. So today, we're going to try to break down that process. The fascinating, sometimes frustrating, journey of how a bill becomes a law.
Yeah, it might seem kind of complex from the outside looking in, all these steps and procedures. But the thing is, it's actually designed to be accessible to everyone. You know the Constitution. It puts the power to make laws right in the hands of Congress. That's the House of Representatives and the Senate. And like any good story, it all starts with an idea. Literally any representative can introduce a bill. That's the beauty of it.
Really? So even someone brand new, a freshman representative, just got elected, could say, hey, I have this idea for a law, and boom, the process starts.
That's the beauty of our system. Now, they don't just yell it out on the House floor or something. There's a system, of course. They write up their proposed bill, all official-like, and then, get this, they physically drop it into a special box. It's called the hopper.
A hopper.
A hopper. Okay, so I'm picturing something very official-looking, like maybe something old and ornate. What's the hopper like?
You might be surprised it's actually pretty simple, just a plain wooden box, really. But it's a powerful symbol, Once that bill is in the hopper, it's official. It's on its way. Then the Speaker of the House, they're like the master sorter,
Yeah.
They direct the bill to the right committee. Think of it like sorting mail to go to different departments.
So these committees, this is where things really start to get interesting, right? This is where a bill can live or die, I imagine.
You're absolutely right. The committees are like specialized teams, groups of representatives who are experts in specific areas like healthcare or education, finance. They're the ones who really dive deep into the bill, analyze it and dissect it.
So it's not just a quick look over. They really scrutinize these things, huh? Oh, absolutely. They hold public hearings, invite all sorts of people to weigh in, experts, of course, people who would be directly affected by the proposed law, even everyday citizens.
So it's a chance for the committee to get all kinds of perspectives.
Exactly, before making any decisions. And here's the really cool part. These hearings are open to the public. You can even find transcripts online. It's surprisingly transparent.
Wow, that's amazing. So it's not just happening behind closed doors then.
Yeah.
So after all this feedback, what happens next?
Well, then comes what's called the markup session. This is where the committee really gets down to business. They can propose changes, add amendments, even completely rewrite sections of the bill.
So the bill could go into that markup session and come out looking totally different.
That's right. It's really where the bill gets shaped and molded. And once the committee is satisfied, they vote on whether to send the bill forward. If they don't think it's ready or don't support it, they can table it, basically kill it right there.
So a lot of power in the hands of these committees, kind of like gatekeepers.
You can say that. That's why it's so important to know who's on these committees, what they're working on. It gives you a glimpse into how things really work,
Okay, so let's say our bill survives the committee, makes it through the markup, gets the thumbs up. What happens then?
Then it's showtime. The bill is officially scheduled for consideration on the House floor.
Okay, I'm picturing this now. A House floor, all those representatives, the buzz of activity.
Yeah, it can be quite a spectacle. But before the debate can begin, there are ground rules to set, These rules govern how much time there is for debate, what kinds of amendments can be proposed, that sort of thing. It's all about making sure things are fair and organized.
So it's not just a free-for-all.
Absolutely not. These rules are super important. And they're often the subject of a lot of negotiation behind the scenes. It can get pretty strategic,
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So once the rules are set, then the real debate begins.
Right, and that's where things can get really heated. Representatives on both sides of the issue, they get their chance to make their case, present their arguments, try to convince their colleagues to see their point of view.
So impassioned speeches, maybe some witty comebacks.
You got it. But hopefully a lot of thoughtful analysis too, really digging into the bill's potential impact. This is where representatives get to represent their constituents, engage in this very public exchange of ideas. It's democracy in action.
I'm starting to see why C-SPAN is so popular.
Yeah.
This is where the drama happens. So after all that debating, all that back and forth, it's time for the big moment, the vote.
Exactly. This is where it all comes down to a simple yes or no. The House uses an electronic voting system now, so it's all very official and transparent.
No hiding from your vote.
Nope, each member's vote is recorded. Sometimes they'll do a voice vote for less crucial things, where they just shout yay or nay. But for big decisions, it's that electronic system.
So let's say our bill makes it through, gets a majority of those yays. It passes the House. What a victory. But wait, the journey's not over yet, right?
You got it, passing the House is a big hurdle. But now our bill faces a whole new set of challenges. In the Senate.
Yeah, the Senate is a whole different animal, while the House is all about representing the people.
Based on how many people live in each state you know, the Senate is designed to give each state an equal say. 2 senators per state, no matter how big or small the state is.
So it's about balancing things out,
Yeah.
representing the people and the states themselves.
Precisely. And that can make things really interesting. Like, imagine a bill that's super popular in a few big states. It might sail through the House, no problem, but then face a tougher time in the Senate, where senators from smaller states might have different priorities.
Makes sense. So, okay, our bill's fresh from its victory in the House, arrives in the Senate. Does it go through a similar process there?
Yep, pretty much. The Senate has its own committee system. Just like in the House, these committees hold hearings, they do markups, and ultimately decide whether to send the bill to the full Senate for a vote.
So we can see more of those intense debates, more last-minute amendments, all happening again.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, the Senate is often thought of as being more deliberative than the House. They take their time, really get into the nitty-gritty of the bill, and those debates can go on for hours, sometimes even days.
Wow, that's serious dedication. Okay, so let's say our bill survives the Senate committees. It gets to the Senate floor for a vote. What happens then?
Well, here's where things get really interesting. For a bill to actually become a law, both the House and the Senate, they have to pass the exact same version of the bill, word for word. If the Senate makes even tiny changes, the bill has to go back to the House for another vote.
Wait, so even if one word is different, the whole thing has to go back. That seems a little inefficient.
Yeah, it might seem that way, but it's a crucial part of that system of checks and balances,
Right.
know. It makes sure that both chambers of Congress, representing different aspects of our democracy, have to agree on the exact wording of the law.
Okay, I see the logic there.
Yeah.
But it also seems like that could lead to things getting stuck. What happens if the House and Senate just can't agree on a final version?
That's where conference committees come in. These are special groups made up of members from both the House and the Senate. Their job is to work out those differences.
So they're like the negotiators, trying to find some middle ground.
Exactly. They meet, they debate, they make compromises. Hopefully they come up with a version of the bill that everyone can live with.
Sounds like a tough job. The peacemakers of Congress?
You could say that.
Yeah.
Their work is essential for getting things done.
So once the conference committee comes up with an agreement, then what?
Then that final compromise version of the bill, it goes back to both the House and the Senate for one last vote. No more amendments or changes at this point. Just a simple yes or no.
Okay, so our bill has been through the ringer, all this scrutiny and negotiation. Finally, it gets a thumbs up from both the House and the Senate. Are we done? Is it officially a law?
Almost. There's one very important step left. The bill goes to the president's desk.
Ah, yes, the moment of truth. Will they sign it? Or could it face a veto?
That's the big question. And it has huge consequences. The president has a few different options when a bill lands on their desk.
Okay, let's hear it. What are those options?
Well, the most straightforward one is a signature. If the president likes the bill, supports its goals, they'll sign it, and bam, it becomes law.
The happy ending.
Right, but it doesn't always go that smoothly. The president could also choose to veto the bill. That means they send it back to Congress with a message, explaining why they don't support it.
So it's like a big official rejection letter.
Exactly. And a veto can be pretty powerful. It can kill the bill unless Congress can override it.
Override a veto, how does that work?
It's not easy. If Congress really believes in the bill, they can try to override the president's veto. But to do that, they need a 2/3 majority vote in both the House and the Senate.
Wow, it's a tough one. Really shows the power of the president.
It does, but there are a couple other scenarios too. The president doesn't actually have to sign or veto a bill if they just do nothing for 10 days. While Congress is in session, the bill automatically becomes law without their signature.
So it's like a passive approval. Maybe they don't love it, but they're not going to fight it.
That's right. But there's one last twist we need to talk about, the pocket veto.
Pocket veto, that sounds interesting.
If Congress adjourns, they take a break, before that 10-day period is up, and the president hasn't signed the bill, it's automatically vetoed. They don't have to do anything. It just happens.
Like it disappeared into their pocket.
Exactly. It's a sneaky but powerful move. Presidents can use it when they don't want to publicly fight a bill, but they also don't want it to become law.
So there you have it. Our hypothetical bill has been through a lot. From the House to the Senate, committees, conference committees, all the way to the president's desk. quite a journey.
It really shows how that system of checks and balances works. It's not easy to make a law in the United States, and that's intentional.
Yeah. It's really amazing when you think about it, all those steps, all those potential roadblocks, points where it seems like the whole thing could just fall apart.
Yeah, it definitely highlights how our system is designed,
Yeah.
to make sure that laws are carefully considered, debated from all angles, and ideally reflect what the people want.
I think sometimes people get kind of overwhelmed by it all,
Yeah.
all those steps, all that complexity. And they end up feeling like their voice doesn't really matter. So why should we even care about all this? Why bother trying to understand this whole legislative maze?
That's a great question, and it's one I hear a lot, honestly, understanding this process. It's super important for being an informed citizen. It's about knowing how you can participate.
So it's not just about passively understanding how it works. It's about actively getting involved.
Exactly. You have the right to contact your representatives and senators, to attend town hall meetings, testify at those public hearings we talked about, advocate for the issues you care about. It might seem small, but trust me, those individual voices, they really do add up.
I think people have this image of Washington, D.C. as this kind of distant bubble,
Mm.
and they feel like their concerns are just going to get lost in the noise.
I get that. But remember, those representatives, those senators, they're there to represent you. They need to hear from their constituents. They need to know what people back home are thinking and feeling.
So every email, every phone call, it all makes a difference.
Absolutely. Every single one. They all factor into the decision-making process.
So what's the key takeaway for our listeners today? If they could remember just one thing about how a bill becomes a law, what would it be?
I'd say this. The legislative process, it might be complex, but it's ultimately accessible to everyone. Stay informed, engage with your elected officials, and participate in shaping the laws that affect all of us. Your voice, your perspective, it truly does matter.
That's a great message. And I think a perfect place to wrap up our conversation today. It's been fascinating exploring how a bill goes from a simple idea to an actual law.
My pleasure. The more we all understand about how our government works, the better equipped we are to be active participants in our democracy.
Absolutely. To our listeners, we hope this has sparked your curiosity, maybe even inspired you to get a little more involved in the process. Remember, this isn't just about politicians and lawmakers. It's about all of us.
Please like and subscribe. It will help our channel or help our